everybody. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in. Tonight, we are looking at episode 3 of season 1 of Dexter Resurrection, Backseat Driver. But if you want to stay on top of all the reviews I'm dropping in the world of Dexter, whether it's Original Sin, New Blood, or as we continue on following along season 1 of the new show, Dexter Resurrection, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button no matter where you are watching or listening. We're going to be following along all season with America's favorite serial killer. But let's not waste any time and jump right on into things. Again, we are talking episode 3, Backseat Driver. So in the previous episode, Dexter has finally set his sights on a new victim after years of not being able to go on a hunt. You got a guy running around who is being called the Dark Passenger, albeit he's not calling himself that, but it's more than enough to enrage Dexter and make him take an interest in this guy, Red. So this brings us to this new episode where Dexter is now working firmly as a Eurocar driver, trying to lure Red in. He gets a bad rating and he has to go to Blessing in order to figure out a way to bring that rating up, which I'm sure anybody that has worked rideshare service before knows that it's like those first few rides, those are always the toughest because you never know what your people are going to need, the weird requests that come in, whether it's a good or a bad rideshare driver. And Dexter doesn't have those social cues to begin with, so of course he's not thinking about that at all. For him, it's look, I have the car, I have a seat, that is all that you should need, and we know there's a lot more to that. So it's hilarious watching Dexter again trying to fit in yet another world that only serves to help him feed his dark desires. We then find out something that's actually peculiar here about Dexter himself. When he goes and he ends up having a meal with Blessing and his family, it's revealed that Blessing's wife ended up doing a background search on him, so they know that Dexter is from Miami. And this brings up a very interesting point here about Resurrection, and I guess about New Blood as well too. We know that Dexter faked his own death at the end of the show and left everybody in Miami thinking he was dead. Harrison was left off with Hannah, and that was the end of the Morgan saga. But now that Dexter is back and Batista has had him declared legally alive, it's a reminder that Dexter's not actually in trouble for anything. Yes, Batista is very much aware of what LaGuardia said and where a lot of this evidence is pointing that Dexter is likely the Bay Harbor Butcher and at least involved in a number of deaths that he needs to be suspicious of. But it's not like anybody could arrest Dexter right this moment because Dexter Morgan is still not a serial killer according to police evidence. And I forget that quite often watching all these various Dexter shows because it kind of felt like after the end of the original show that the next time we saw Dexter, he's got to look out, right? Like if Miami Metro found out that Dexter was alive, he'd be in a lot of trouble. But yet, and still Batista knows now that Dexter is alive, and it's being proven that, well, Dexter's not really in trouble here. Like there's nothing really for him to worry about unless Batista keeps on diving deeper, which we know he absolutely is. But I just found that fact so interesting that Dexter is worried and he's looking out for Harrison, but yet and still, it's not like he has his own reputation to look out for. He doesn't really need to protect himself right now. Nobody besides Batista is looking for him. So just something interesting that again keeps on pushing Batista, makes that character far more interesting this season. Ultimately, this ends up with Dexter capturing the Dark Passenger, getting him on his table, and taking him out. The first kill, the first true kill that we get to see Dexter and his Dark Passenger complete in years. This is years and years of waiting. And just like Dexter taking that deep, deep breath, realizing that he's got what he lost back to him, I feel like us as viewers are taking that same kind of deep breath as well too, because we haven't seen it in so long. We know Dexter kind of needs this to not mess up, to not be sloppy, to make sure that he's doing everything with a well intact head and brain and keeping things going the way that they need to. It was cool to see Dexter actually get to commit one of these murders and get back to his old self. Now, the flip side of that is that I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that this is just showing that even though we're happy that Dexter is getting back to where he was in this original show, that he's still digging a deeper hole for himself by not connecting with Harrison just yet. He's got every excuse every time that Harry's in his ear talking to him and about how he could really help out any of the issues that Harrison is dealing with right now, but he continues coming up with excuse after excuse after excuse for why this meeting shouldn't take place. And as we see from Harrison here in this episode, the PTSD is hitting him unbelievably hard. We have not seen those kind of effects across the show, like maybe a little bit with Lumen, Julia Stiles' character. That might be the only instance to where we've seen somebody really feel the ill effects of committing murder here. But it's very, very clear, if it wasn't before, that Harrison just cannot push these feelings aside, and that he has a lot of things that Dexter is missing. So combine the idea that he still feels that he killed Dexter, combined with this hotel guest Ryan that he did kill to save another guest from rape, Harrison is just not dealing well with any of this at all, and now the police very much see him as a person of interest. You know, we saw in the last episode that the two NYPD detectives were showing up, and based on the evidence they found, they figured that Harrison was somebody that they needed to connect to, but they do get a chance to interview him multiple times in this episode, to where now Harrison has to set himself up an alibi, which puts his co-worker in a bit of trouble there, because she now has to continue to cover for him. Harrison's homeless. He's been staying at various rooms here at the Empire Hotel that his co-worker has been letting him into. Now, of course, their boss doesn't know that, and if their boss finds out, that can end up bad for both of them. So Harrison is continuing to have to spend more and more and more lies in order to protect himself, and you can see how truly uncomfortable that he's really getting. Harrison doesn't have those same skills that Dexter again has. It's another thing to point out. And so when folks start scrutinizing the words that he's saying, at a certain point, something's gonna click and folks are gonna realize that Harrison truly is full of shit. So hopefully Dexter decides sooner than later to make that connection again with him, because I think Harrison's gonna end up getting in a lot of trouble with this murder until Dexter is able to step in and find a way to kind of clear himself from all of this. Now, speaking of the police, they seem to be getting closer and closer to figuring out information on who Ryan's killer is. You know, Detective Claudette is able to figure out that the trash bags that were used to wrap up Ryan's body, these were done very distinctively, different from the other people who are taking trash out. And it means that it's something that they can study. They have themselves an edge here to figure out who this killer is. And right now, the only person that really makes sense, again, is Harrison, based on the video evidence that they have and just circumstantial evidence as well, too. I'm really liking this set of detectives because they don't have any kind of bond with Dexter or Harrison, and so therefore they're not going to be persuaded, distracted, or I guess corrupted by anybody in their circle to let any of this go. You know, whether it's been somebody like Frank Lundy or Dokes or LaGuerta or Miguel Prado, it doesn't matter. We've seen a number of figures in the original show and even across Original Sin, to where it's somebody who's in a position to where their job would literally be to expose everything that's going on, but for one reason or another, they die, they kill themselves, they are killed, whatever the case is, they're not able to share that information. But the thing is, with all these characters, they have had personal ties to Dexter or somebody's in Dexter's circle, which for all of us, we kind of tend to look at that and say, well, that's a good reason for them to not ultimately go through with this. And it seems clear from Batista, at least right now, that we're not going to get that courtesy in the least. Batista is very much hunting Dexter and wanting some answers for what was going on in Miami while Dexter was still there. But as we've seen in Dexter here before, the issue is that the more people who end up having to be involved in these stories being told, the more easy it is for these stories to ultimately fall apart and somebody get caught in something far less truthful than what they intended. So I have to imagine his co-worker here who's covering for him, Harrison watches her son here and there might be a little bit of romance there with it. I have to imagine that that relationship is going to be one of the things that's going to cause Harrison a lot more problems as the season goes on, because it's always the innocent that get wrapped up with Dexter and those folks around him and end up ultimately paying that price. Now, we still have not gotten more information here on Uma Thurman's character or Peter Dinklage's character at all. I imagine it can't be too much much more, as this episode ended off with Dexter realizing that the invitation that was sent to Red to converse with people that are like him, he needs a fingerprint in order to do that, and goes back and pulls Red's arm out of the incinerator that he finds and chops off a thumb in order to preserve that fingerprint. So it seems like Dexter is going to be getting more information about who is contacting these serial killers sooner than later. I am excited to see the way that plays out, but again, I am also cautious because at this point here, we don't actually have that many episodes left in the season. Like, I know we're only talking episode 3, but it is only a 10 episode season here. We don't have that much to really get to know these characters that much more. And I really think that stuff has to be moving a little bit quicker. So returning from Iron Lake back to Miami without any kind of leads of to where Dexter really is, we get a chance to see Quinn and Masuka. Y'all, it's been years. It's been years. And even with Original Sin giving us the younger version of a number of those original cast members, it is so cool. It is so cool to see C.S. Lee and Desmond Harrington just jump right back into those roles and feel like we did when we were watching that original show. I mean, I have to doubt there are any plans to include the two of them like in bigger roles for Resurrection moving forward, especially if it's going to stay in New York past this first season. But we can all dream, right? We can all dream. Now, Angel does get a heads up, though, that Dexter's truck got a ticket to New York, and this is ultimately what's going to send Batista upstate to go and track down Dexter, and we have to assume a connection with Harrison as well. I am really enjoying what we are getting here with Dexter Resurrection. Dexter is back in action as a serial killer yet again, and he's got a smile on his face. He's hopefully at some point going to reconnect with Harrison, who is going through hell himself right now and very much struggling with the murders that he's committed. And we see that the cops here are actually competent, and this is not a case to where Dexter, so far at least, is having any ability to swerve the evidence or swerve the leads that are coming up around him or around Harrison either. So we're getting a lot of what we enjoyed about that original series while introducing some new wrinkles that might cause a problem for, again, America's favorite serial killer. I want to hear, though, what y'all are thinking about Resurrection so far, though, in the chat. Let me know. Do you think that Dexter is going to have to save Harrison's ass when all is said and done? Do you think this is going to flip around? It's going to be Harrison having to take care of Dexter? I am genuinely curious. So y'all let me know what you're thinking so far here in that comment section. Make sure, again, hit that subscribe button and that follow button no matter where you're watching, where you're listening, as again, we are going to follow along with all of this first season of Dexter Resurrection. And the best way to stay on top of things, besides hitting subscribe or follow, is to get subscribed to my Linktree. You can do that at linktr.ee/tscarymovie. If you get subscribed, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page, the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio-only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings through the year, my TikTok page for short horror content including movie news, movie premieres, and movie reviews, my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button so you can stay on top of everything I'm dropping here on my channel. I'm going to be releasing reviews here for Ick, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that third act of the I Know What You Did Last Summer requel. That thing was juicy. It was spicy. We got to talk about the killer in that one and what it means for a potential sequel, as I Know What You Did Last Summer is currently making far more than its original budget here at the box office. So with just a little bit more, hopefully we're going to get that sequel announcement here sooner than later within the next few weeks, but we'll see. Obviously, the on-demand is going to play a big part there in it. But that is it for tonight, y'all. I appreciate you tuning in so much. Come on back and listen up for another review sooner than later. But my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.